Hello my friends, welcome back to the channel. So I was sitting here and thinking, before the Christmas craze kicks in, and I'm gonna making most probably videos related to that topic because I love Christmas so much. I was thinking, let's just dive Kosha. So I was sitting and thinking, it's been a while since I actually made some kind of video that was related to true crime slash mystery slash whatever makes us confused, and also related to Norway. So I know that in the last video that was related to this topic, I was suggesting that I might make a video about the mystery of Kambo man in Norway. And yeah, I had some days off from work and I just dived into that story and I thought, wow, that's quite interesting. And I just simply must share this one with you. So hold on, this is going to be a very interesting mystery, true crime, and also, in my opinion, there are some signs that could make this mystery or true crime related a little bit to Isdalwoman. By the way, if you haven't seen the series on my channel dedicated to the mystery of Isdalwoman, make sure you watch it. Just check the link below in the description, and maybe somewhere here I will put it, and watch all the episodes and let me know what you think about Isdalwoman. But now it's time to talk about the true crime that is called the mystery of Kambo man. Let's do this! Now, let's move back in a time machine to the late 80s in Norway.
The date is September 22nd, 1987. A train is on the way from Moss to the direction of Oslo. When the train approached a place called Kambo, a strange and quite gruesome discovery was made. And this is going to be the main topic of today's true crime video on my channel.
Two men who were working on a locomotive on a railway actually received a message that they should drive a little bit more careful when approaching the Kambo territory because there is something on the rail. So both men, they were taking this suggestion into consideration and were driving a little bit slower.
Then I see that there is a case in the railroad. At first I thought it was a garbage bag, but when I get closer I saw that it's a human, said Svein Ivar, one of the men working on the train.
Svein Ivar actually jumps out of the train because he sees actually that there is something, and he sees that there is a body lying by the railway, and it looks like it's a man around its 50s up to 60s. He was lying on his stomach with his left side towards the railway, and the right arm and right leg was separated from the body. But the main question here remains, what happened here? First of all, it's quite weird to find a dead body in this territory.
On one side of the track is Mossesundet, a strait that goes from the city of Moss and into Oslofjorden, the fjord that leads to Oslo.
The other side is a big and thick forest, and there's no civilization around. The location of the body was approximately 4 kilometers from Moss and around 2 kilometers from Kambo. How did this man actually get there in the middle of almost nowhere without any civilization around? So did he actually somehow got there to end up his life by himself, or maybe somebody actually killed him? Investigation was started. They searched up all the things that were around him and also himself. They didn't find any ID, so they did not have any clue who this man is. And another thing is that all the clothes that he had on him, all of them had the labels cut off, which is very, very, very similar to Isdalwoman case, because remember, also all of the labels of her clothes were cut off. for some kind of reasons. Maybe just not to trace back where the person had bought these clothes, so that they cannot go to these shops and ask to the shop assistants some questions about this person. So it was like a dead end. Let's talk about the stuff that the man had on him and what was found around him.
The man was wearing the following when he was found: a gray military jacket, blue jeans, white shirt, 2 medical support socks, a yellow machine knit sweater with a square pattern, a white undershirt, underpants of the brand Elan Body, handkerchief with brown stripes in square pattern, a black belt of artificial material, a red Swiss Army pocket knife of the model Climber, and the soft-pack Camel cigarettes produced in the West for the Eastern European market.
So the dead man was actually transported to Oslo, to the Institute of Forensic Medicine, and they wanted to do the autopsy. And after the autopsy, this mystery man was buried in a cemetery, and only 2 people were present there. It was the policeman that was involved in the case and the priest, which is quite sad. And I recall that almost the same was with the Isdal woman when she was buried in Møllendal Cemetery without any relatives. So at first it was assumed that this man is actually a local. However, after doing more digging into this case, they understood that he's not Norwegian and most probably not even from the surrounding Scandinavian areas and countries. The investigators involved different media like newspapers and whatever they had at that time, and sent out the message for people to recognize him, but nobody actually said, yes, I recognize him as my relative or friend, or I just simply have seen him somewhere. So he wasn't from around, so he wasn't Norwegian, he wasn't Scandinavian. The autopsy showed that he was a pretty much healthy man. Also, there were no traces of alcohol or any substances in his system. He had a crushed head. He also had some bruises on his back, and as I mentioned at the beginning, his right leg and arm were cut off, also most probably from the crash with the train. And it was assumed, yes, that his actual age was around 55 up to 65. The Norwegian police understood that they might need some help from outside Norway and Scandinavia, because all the clues kind of show that he might be related from the countries outside Scandinavia and Norway. And this is where they got in touch with Interpol. So they gave them all of the materials they had about all of the clues, all the pictures of his body and characteristics, so that they also could use their channels to spread the message, and maybe somebody from other countries could recognize this mysterious man that was found in Norway. But nobody said that they recognize him. Police stopped at nothing. Mystery unsolved. But let's discuss some options and possibilities that could help us to kind of try and understand who actually was this mystery man, or how we all know him, Kambo man. Needless to say that this accident actually happened during the time of Cold War. This could make us think that he might be a spy.
I'm the spy. What?
But what are the things that might suggest that? And why would a spy actually be present in this area? As I said, it's quite deserted, not populated.
There is actually a reason. You see, in the 1980s, there was a NATO plant in Gilderåsen in Våler, which is close to Moss, where the man was found. The radar station was a part of so-called Nike system.
That was a rocket defense system that was supposed to protect Oslo from the possible attack from the Soviet Union. So it's like strategically very important location. And an interesting thing that right around that time when Kambo Man was found, there were several spies noticed around similar facilities around Norway. So maybe this was the case, and also the mysterious Kambo Man was kinda on a spy duty. This theory kinda makes sense to me. I don't know how about you, how do you feel about that? So please write down in comments, how do you feel about Kambo Man being a spy? But for me it really makes sense also if we make like links also to the cigarettes that he had on him, and also the cutting off of labels, so could be. Yes, there is a theory that Kambo Man could actually be like some kind of sailor or a seaman. He might have come to Moss by a cargo ship or by some kind of other ship. After investigating different archives of that time, different logbooks of ships coming into Moss, they found out that around that time there was only one cargo ship coming into Moss, and this cargo ship actually was coming from northern Germany. This ship actually arrived in Moss in September the 20th of 1987, and it leaves Moss in September 22, around a couple of hours after this Kambo Man was found. The ship continues its route, and it's unknown where exactly the ship was heading on next, so we don't have any clue about that. But yeah, so it could be possible that maybe this Kambo Man was part of this ship, like of this crew. However, I think it would be logic if like a part of your crew gets lost in some foreign country, you just simply go and announce the missing man, but nothing like that happened. So I don't know. Oh, and I actually, after doing the research, found out that the name of the ship was MS Edelgard. So of course I googled it and tried to find how it looked, but I didn't actually find anything really useful except for this photo, which kind of says that it's also called Edelgard. So maybe this could be the ship. It looks like a cargo ship, so maybe it is actually the same. So yeah, but that is all like the dead end about the theory of the Kambo Man being a sailor or a seaman or whatever related to this ship. Let's go back a little bit to the evidence and discuss the things that he was wearing and that were found around him. And the weirdest thing that I read somewhere was that all of his clothes, like the evidence, were washed. I still don't get it why at that time they washed all of the evidence. I mean, it doesn't make sense at all. I read somewhere that during that time they weren't actually using DNA recognition methods, so this is why most probably they didn't think that it's important to leave all the DNA on the evidence, and this is why they washed it. And it's so annoying, because nowadays if we had all of these materials not washed, we might have all the answers that we need right now. The good news is that they actually really tried to retrieve at least some piece of DNA of any of these things that were belonging to Kambo Man, and they actually managed to do that. They found some DNA on the man's shoe sole, and they also found some DNA on the cigarettes package. Now, with having all of these DNA pieces, it was actually possible to try and make DNA profile for this man. And the DNA profile, as I mentioned a little bit in the story of Isdal Woman, means that you can actually make a map of the possible countries from where this man was coming, living and originated. And this map showed some hits in Estonia, which is Baltic states, like the part where I'm coming from, but the most hits were from Germany, most specifically in Western Germany. And then some experts decided actually to take all of the Kambo man's clothes and go to a person who is an expert in clothing of that time. And they found out that the clothes that he was wearing were quite stylish and popular in Germany in the 80s. And there was actually one piece of clothing, the underwear, that had a little piece of label left, and the description of how to wash the underwear or from what it was made was actually in German. And they figured out that this underwear was actually produced in Frankfurt in Germany. But that's not the last thing related to Germany. This clothing expert who was analyzing all of the stuff belonging to Kambo man actually pointed out to the jacket that he was wearing. The jacket was described by this expert as Szymanski jacket. I hope I pronounced it correctly. So what is Szymanski jacket?
Szymanski was a character in a fictional political series that has been broadcast on German television since 1970s. And this character wore this type of jacket. And the men in the 80s in Germany were obsessed with having the same type of jacket.
All of the clothes, all in all, were quite cheap. It looked like they had been bought like in some supermarket or, I don't know, like taken from Salvation Army. So he was wearing quite cheap stuff. So maybe he was just simple like a homeless person or something. But not really, because his shoes were of very good quality and they were expensive. So again, controversy. Kambo man was wearing so-called Mephisto shoes. They were quite expensive, and these shoes were specifically made for people who had to walk long distances or had some health problems. But that's not actually all about the shoes. The shoes have another mystery. So the investigators took out the sole of the shoe and they found a little label that had some mysterious numbers in it. Was it a code? What was it? This little label or note, I don't know, had a combination of numbers 15250. So, is this a spy code? What does it mean?
There actually might be a logic explanation to this. People investigating the case actually spoke to the manufacturer of the shoes, who said that the shoes were most likely manufactured in 1981. This specific model had a weakness which led to a lot of shoes being returned to the factory. Each shoe was given a separate number that was linked to a handwritten list, so they could link it back to the customer. Unfortunately, this list doesn't exist anymore.
There's another thing. So, some ex-truck driver, his name was Sandberg, once was watching Norwegian TV show, and this TV show was kind of like documentary dedicated to the Kambo man case. So he was watching it, like very interesting show, you know, and then something rang a bell in his head. Because during that time in 1987 he was actually driving his truck and working, and some of the things made sense to him. During that time when the Kambo man thing appeared, this man called Roy was actually driving his truck. He loaded in Italy, in Milan, and then he was going through Switzerland to Germany and then back to Norway. In a resting place somewhere on the motorway in Germany, the truck driver sits and eats his dinner, and when he comes back to his truck, he discovers something abnormal. The material that covers the cargo, you know, like this very heavy cloth that covers it, it had some kind of cut into it. So it looked like somebody had cut it with a knife, but he didn't actually pay a lot of attention to that. He just went into this truck and went back to Norway. Psst, pay attention, Kambo man actually had a Swiss knife. Just a slight hint. While unloading in Norway, he hears some kind of noise back in his cargo compartment, but he assumes that it might be some kind of carton or thing there in his truck that just fell down, so he didn't pay the attention and went further about his daily routines. Only after watching this documentary on Norwegian television, he actually understood that he might be the man who took the Kambo man to Norway. He assumes that this mysterious man actually jumped into his cargo compartment on the place where he was having a dinner in Germany, because he made this cut in his cargo compartment cloth and went into the cargo compartment, and then he jumped out in Norway. Remember, that was the moment when he actually heard the noise. So this kind of makes sense. And he also recalls that the cut was large enough so that a man can actually squeeze himself in and out of it. So yeah, could this be the way how the Kambo men get to Norway? We don't know, but it kind of sounds logic. How do you think? Write down in comments. But there is another thing, another person who could be Kambo man, but we cannot actually be sure about it, but I'm gonna mention about it because it also sounds quite logic.
Remy Bullard is a 54-year-old man who disappeared on the Christmas Eve of 1977 in the village of Rassens in Fribourg in the French-speaking part of Switzerland.
The searches for him bring out 0 results, and there is no hint of where could he have gone and where is he now. And 10 years later, Kambo man is found in Norway. There are quite many believers that this Kambo man is actually this man called Remy, and he could be the man who actually jumped into the truck driver's cargo compartment, and he was the one who actually came out in Moss, and he is this mysterious man that we cannot figure out up to nowadays. So all in all, this is it about the mysterious Kambo man. As you can see, there are so many mysteries surrounding him, so many theories, but none of them actually have like a solid proof, solid evidence. A lot of things that look quite weird might have a logic explanation, so we cannot be so sure that he is a spy, why the labels were cut off, what he was doing in the middle of nowhere. There are so many unanswered questions. Let me know in comments, what do you think about this case? What do you think about this Kambo man? Who was he? So let's discuss it, because I'm really into this topic and trying to understand what actually happened. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this mystery true crime story from me. It's getting already dark here, because it's getting dark quite quickly here in Bergen, like around 4 or 5 o'clock. And that being said, I truly hope you have a lovely day. Stay safe. That's the best thing I could wish to you after telling you this creepy, mysterious story. And stay happy, stay funny, and see you next time. Love you, Tones.